Commission this morning. Among the issues raised, we understand, is the length in time and some of the observations made. What were your particular issues with those, the issues that you raised?
So we had, as you guys know, we had brought up a couple issues. So the first one being the time that the process is running. I'd like to make it clear that the time to us may potentially be a secondary issue as long as the transparency continues. All right? I'd like to make that very clear. We are extremely satisfied up to this point with the work that GECOM is doing in creating a credible and transparent recount process. The time that we are complaining about, well, not complaining about, but raising as a potential issue is we have a situation where the country is in waiting, and we continuously find ways as the process goes along to speed it up. And we've been making suggestions that have gone along with the Commission, informal decisions, some written decisions, some written suggestions, and we haven't been getting very much ratification from it. And that's, I think, is our biggest problem. You know, for example, we have made suggestions that more stations can be added. We've made suggestions that we do something called a quick answer form that should be given to the counting agents, not counting agents, but station supervisors, when a continuous amount of issues are risen over and over and over again. The same issues we find keep coming up. And as new people complain about it and new people bring the issues up, they're then dealt with in a very slow manner all over again. So what we've decided to do is we've decided to raise how we're going to go about suggesting that the Commission, you know, make some small alterations. Another big problem we had, and this is what our main concern was with GECOM, was that there is a lot of misunderstanding as to what is happening when it comes to the tabulation. I'm very happy to have heard Mr. Ward just now explain that there is going to be a final declaration once the regions are done. As you guys understood it, we understood it as well. I'm actually kind of happy that you guys see the little bit of confusion, because we heard as well that they're still going to deliberate on it after. Well, our response to that is obviously, if you're putting these numbers up on a screen and you're showing the public, how exactly are you then going to go back and decide to make changes and alterations? That's misinforming the public, because as we understand it, all the parties have agreed in every station to all of these numbers, and these numbers should be final. There's no, you know, as much as the observation report shows that there are issues, is that not another cause for an elections petition? Because as we understand it, this is a recount, and a recount should be dealing with what's inside of these boxes. So this is the little bit of confusion that was created. We've asked GECOM to please, after these 7 days, to make it very clear what exactly are going to be derived from the results of this recount and how they're going to be used. Because as it stands right now, the public is tense, we're all tense, the process is going smoothly, so we don't understand why these declarations on that screen during tabulation are not the final numbers. That's where we stand right now. The second thing that the last thing that we brought up, importantly, was we'd like everything to be in writing. These back and forth words and us informally speaking to commissioners and so on, any decisions that the Commission makes, we've made a request that they are put into writing for us, and any objections that we have, again, should be put into writing. Because as we've heard multiple times from the Commission, and all the shenanigans and charades that happened previous to this election, has an official declaration or complaint been made. So lots of obviously issues when it comes to, you know, information moving back and forth, and we'd like all that to be formalized, because at the end of this process, we don't want to have any questions.
You are on record, your party's on record, speaking to the integrity of this process and the smoothness of it. Is your party in favor of an extension of the 25 days to ensure also that same integrity and smoothness?
There is zero question about that, and I would challenge anyone to come out here and say they are not in favor of extending the 25 days to ensure the process is credible. We, as you know, I was just shown documentation, written documentation, and proof that every start on March 2nd, every organization and every political leader has stated that process happened free, fair, and transparently. There were no objections made at that time of the March 2nd election day. And then after that, we have now come to a procedure where we're in this building, and there can't be any complaints that I know about so far in which somebody may challenge the transparency or credibility of this process. We are all signing off on it. Every party's agents are, and if somebody wants to challenge it, that is their moment to do it, so it can go on the observation report. But I'm sorry to say, I cannot understand, or I cannot agree with the commission having to go back and deliberate on these numbers that are being presented to the public. That is asking for more trouble. That is creating a false sense of transparency, in which you are now saying all this counting is a waste of time because you're still going to go back and deliberate on it. So what exactly are you asking us to do?
But deliberate doesn't mean changing the numbers.
No, it doesn't.
Mean anything.
Well, exactly. So what does that mean? And that's been our major issue with speaking to GECOM. You need to clarify these things. As I mentioned, I'm very happy with what Ms. Ward just said, that a declaration will be made. But then, as you guys challenged it, it did somewhat sink back into, oh yes, the commission does now need to deliberate on it. So what exactly is the declaration going to mean then if it can be changed? And this is our issue that we keep having up. So just as a second update, we met with CARICOM as well, the CARICOM Observer team, just a few moments ago. That was a very nice conversation in the idea that it was a lot more open. It wasn't suggestions. They've asked us what our opinions are on this whole scenario and what we feel can be offered to speed up the process or make it more transparent. CARICOM was very receptive to us. I'm going to make it very clear, CARICOM in no way, showed any bias or spoke to us in regards to what they thought their report is for them. They just asked the small parties, not including PPP or APNU, AFC, to join us in that meeting, so it was just us. And we discussed a multitude of issues on areas like we just mentioned about the final decision being in the Commission's hands as problematic. And they've said they're going to raise it in their reports, and we spoke a little bit about society and how this is affecting the people of the country, and what our take is on that side, and the whole election process coming up. So.
Can you tell me if your party is finding the observation and the observation reports useful?
I appreciate the observation reports in the sense of it shows that people have objections, and I think that's important for clarity and transparency. What I do have a problem with is, why is this happening now? Essentially all these observation reports do is challenge what happened on March 2nd. We're 2 months past that. Why are you now saying that you have issues with voters on a list, you have issues with OLE, you have issues with, dead people or migrants? I mean, you had a record. Everybody had to stick their finger in. I mean, you guys have heard this all before. It is so clear that the process that happened, and according to all the major political leaders and observers, that went smoothly. How have you now come up with new issues?
But these are not new issues. In fairness to the party making the observation, they did call for house registration to cleanse the list. Right. So they can argue that this is not something that they've championed now, and they're given the opportunity now to clarify some of this. How do you respond to that? I mean, that would then imply that the agents sat there and watched a dead person come and vote. I mean, who is the one that voted? How exactly did somebody come into your building, present a fake ID if that's what they're claiming, or present themselves as somebody else by swearing purposes? How exactly are you saying that got past GECOM, got past our agent, got past your agent, got past PPP's agent? How exactly has that occurred? And if that's the case, you are now saying GECOM colluded with everyone. That's how is that working? But some polling stations don't have all party agents. Some of them, have one party agent. So
I would love to know.
And one party is contending one party is contending to that agents were there, but they weren't allowed to interrupt the process, but take note of the anomaly at that time.
Well, I could speak like GECOM in this case. Did you make a report about it? Are there, credible complaints that you have made in writing to show that you had a problem with it then? Because by all means, yes, I agree. But again, I think we need to remember that Our problem here is that GECOM, we are talking about what an elections petition is, and we are talking about what a recount is. And that's where GECOM, the commissioners, have lost us. And that includes us as people that are in there counting. What are you telling us we're doing here? And, you know, getting back to your question, sorry, not to cut, but I don't know any stations that a party is complaining that there was an issue at, that they didn't have an agent at.
Monrepo, the coalition didn't have an agent there.
And they are claiming...
The stations that I don't know what they're claiming, but I'm giving you an example of a polling station that didn't have party agents from all parties.
Can I ask what the complaint is that they're having from that region, that station?
They were on elections day. There were discrepancies that were raised, and it was well publicized. ID cards being used by. You can check the press reports.
I absolutely understand anybody questioning something that they weren't a part of. There's nothing wrong with that, but and I mean this in the least controversial way. These are the same elections that both of these parties have claimed that they will have victory at. All of a sudden now you got a problem with the results. If both of you guys have won, how exactly is there a problem? How is the problem now arising? You're telling me that you win the election, but GECOM and whoever rigged the election, so how did you win and why did you make that claim previously? I have a problem with that.
One party is complaining about the deputy CEO in this process. Has your party noted any raising, issues with the deputy CEO?
Funny you asked that question because it did come up in our conversation when we were discussing our issues and so on. And I'm going to say very personally, I made it very clear to everyone. I said, if you guys have particular complaints about a certain person, you have to have proof that that person, and in this case the DCO, if you say that she did something wrong or is currently doing something wrong, you have to lay it out in writing and show that you have proof that she's in some way, interfering with the process. And to be honest with you, on my personal point of view, we haven't had issues with it other than a few miscommunications, and those were resolved very quickly by the commission. So for me to ask for somebody to be removed altogether from this process right now, I need to see a little bit more evidence before I will ask GECOM or criticize their process in any way, shape, or form.
Thank you.
You're welcome.